I'm paraphrasing, so like, don't kill me in the comments, Fuzzy Duck 8, you know? Don't tell everybody, Peggy. Jeez, they didn't know that. You know, let's edit that out.
Edit out.
Always talked about interest rates go down, home values go up. And that didn't happen. Interest rates have come down like in the last 18 months.
They have.
But home prices didn't go up.
So Nick, do tell us what's going on in the world of rates in mortgage land.
We've seen an increase to fixed rates.
But
like, hold on. When we talk about the increase to fixed rates, like we were sort of like, okay, so let's talk about first time
we're not talking about a decrease in fixed rates.
And we're not talking about a substantial increase.
Okay.
So did it rock the world?
No.
Not really.
Nobody notices.
You know? So first time home buyers, we were seeing 3.89. We saw a few 3.79s. Heck, we saw some 3.69s. Now we're seeing 3.89, 3.99. Some cases 4.09. So, you know, in that segment, first time home buyers, we were like towing the line with 4%.
Okay.
Is it above 4? Is it below 4? Is it above 4? Is it below 4? It was below 4. Now it's above 4.
Okay.
Is it going to change? Yeah, it'll change again.
Of course.
But bond yields were up, right?
Bond
And we've
yields were
talked
up.
so much about the correlation between bond yields and fixed interest rates. So people know, right?
Yeah, they do. They understand when the bond market is high and fixed rates go high.
Yeah, that's it.
How it works.
So we have lots of pre-approvals. We have lots of rate holds. And, you know, people still take advantage of those rates because of those rate holds.
For sure.
So if people have been shopping for a home, being pre-approved, they should just, you know, be really in touch with when that rate hold expires potentially.
Right. And if it's a good one,
totally.
get it together.
Do you remember 2022?
I do.
Yeah.
In my nightmares.
Yeah. So 2022 came in with very low interest rates.
Yeah.
I mean, lower interest rates.
Low.
Yeah.
How low can you go?
And the market was good. Just good.
Crazy.
And then interest rates went up.
Correct.
Like crazy.
Yep.
And then the real estate market got real hot, really hot, because everybody had the rate holds. Everybody had the pre-approvals.
And not only that, but a lot of people have bought without selling. So they got stuck.
Yes.
So they had to sell
Yeah.
because they had already purchased a home. And that's what happens when the market changes so fast that you get people that are left high and dry.
So in today's market, like I would say interest rates, like the news is that interest rates are higher than they were a few weeks ago.
I just wanted for people to understand, because there's a lot of misinformation out there and a lot of people are very confused as to what's happening. They hear about these stats from Toronto, and we're not Toronto, just so everybody understands. We don't have the condo phenomena known as Toronto, and that's really where most of their problems lie. So yes, do they have a lot of condo inventory? They do. Do they have a lot of detached inventory? They actually do. That for Toronto, they have almost as much as we have in Barrie, which is shocking.
Is that inventory selling in Toronto?
Not as quickly anymore, and not in multiples, and not in what they're used to. Yeah. They're just like slow and steady.
What's selling in Simcoe County right now in Barrie?
Simcoe County has the advantage. We have the advantage of lower prices, which means we have the advantage of first-time buyers, and those have been selling. We're
helping tons of first-time home buyers.
But having said that, there's also a ton of inventory for those buyers right now, because there's lots of townhomes for sale. And when I say townhomes, like people have to remember, like people do not move to Simcoe County to buy $1 million townhome. That's not what they're here for. No. They're here for the $600,000 townhome or lower.
Yeah.
And when you start edging up to the sevens, like that's a whole different ballgame right there.
There's a street in Aurelia that I own a townhouse on. The highest sale on that street in the height of the market was like 7.
Is it you?
Something. It wasn't me, thankfully.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, no, it wasn't me. That was the last sale as well. It was the highest sale. It was the last sale. Yeah. 7 and change, 7, whatever it was. Not 700, like 740, 750, you know?
Okay.
There's one listed not selling right now at 539.
I was going to say
$200,000.
I know. And those numbers hurt.
Yeah, they do.
But, you know, if you're one of those people that are out there and you bought at the height of the market,
just got to wait.
You just got to wait.
Just got to wait.
You got to wait.
But think about the opportunity for the person that potentially buys the 539 and hey, it's not selling.
No.
So the 539 is 525, for example. It's a good opportunity.
It's a great opportunity. And not everybody's in that situation. Lots of people bought in 2018, 2019 before this craziness happened. Yeah. So they do have equity in these homes and they're going to price them to market.
One of the stats I always love hearing from you is like, what are we at today? Like in terms of value, are we at 2020 numbers? Are we at 2021, 2019 numbers? What would be your best guess?
I would say 2021 treading towards 2020. So we have seen a lot of movement in as far as price, which actually surprises me because we barely ever do. In 2022, we dropped rapidly. We dropped 35%. Boom, gone. Yeah. And Simcoe County, I think, felt it harder and faster than a lot of places, but we went up harder and faster. Yeah. So, I mean, paybacks are a bitch, but that's what happened. Yep. And ever since then, it's been slow as you go. So we've had some drops. We've had a couple of 2% increases. We've had some 5% drops. So I would say right now, we're not even at 2021. I would say we're more in 2020 prices.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because, like, again, we've always talked about interest rates go down, home values go up. And that didn't happen. Interest rates have come down like in the last 18 months.
They have.
Namely in the last 12 months, really. But home prices didn't go up, which meant there was still some adjustment to happen before there's any changes. Now, if we hop over to variable rates, there's a few important Bank of Canada meetings coming up.
Yeah.
We may not see cuts. We're going to see cuts eventually. They may get pushed. But what's really interesting is, prime below 5% now, which is good. Yeah. Prime used to be 7.2%. I know. It was high, So if somebody gets into a variable rate at, like, let's say 4% today, and we see a 0.5% in cuts, that's 3.5%. That 3-point-something number is super valuable to borrowers right now.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems to be what everybody's comfortable with.
I agree.
A rate that started with a 5, nope. Certainly not a rate that started with a 6. No. Rate that started with a 4, yeah, okay, how deep into the 4s am I? Under 4? Okay, that sounds really good. 3.5? It's good.
If we had 3.5% interest rates, this market would not need anything else. It would just need 3.5% interest rates.
Yeah. And if there were 3.5% 5-year fixed interest rates, I agree.
That would be incredible. And again, it all boils right back down to if we have 3.5% interest rates, fixed rates, that means I can buy for cheaper than I can rent.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to.
You couple it with these really great purchases. I don't know, let's say like a 3-bedroom townhouse over by the hospital college in Barrie, Darkworth Drive exit sort of thing. 5 and change. Yep. Sort of maybe high 5s. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Roughly.
With a 3.5% interest rate, a 30-year amortization, it's a good deal.
It is. You can't rent it for what you buy it for. So that's where the equilibrium changes in our market, right?
What about condos in Simcoe County? Let's say Barrie. Okay. Specifically Barrie.
So Barrie condos, we have about just over 8 months supply, which is a buyer's market. However, they are moving. Yeah. They're just not crazy moving. There's a lot of supply. I'm not going to lie about that. Yeah. Innisfil, Friday Harbor has actually the most amount of supply of condos. And it's not the fact that there's that many for sale. There are quite a few for sale. They're just not moving. They're not moving. And, Friday Harbor is kind of different because it's a lifestyle and it's a resort type living. And,
I love Friday Harbor.
I do too.
I love Friday Harbor.
But people don't want to pay for that right now.
No, they don't want to.
Not when you can get a mortgage.
It's, so Friday Harbor has historically been a little tougher to finance because it has a high concentration of rentals, Airbnbs, that sort of thing. So banks think that when you're buying it, Now, if you can clearly show them it's your primary residence, no big deal.
Well, and prior to, I'm going to say 2020,
you remember,
you weren't allowed to live there full time.
Nope.
Because that's how the developer got out of building schools and parks and amenities. So
second homes only.
Yeah. Which was really odd.
That whole vibe has gone away though. It's very much so like it's people have a cottage there. A lot of people just live there now.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a great place to live.
Totally.
There's stuff going on all the time on the weekends. There's parties. There's music, live music. Like it's basically you walk out of your unit and you're.
If you live there, get yourself an electric scooter. Go grab your Starbucks. Like,
it's amazing.
It is so good. Yeah. So it has a bad rap right now because of the amount of inventory there. Yeah. But like,
and it's not moving.
It's not moving.
That's the problem.
What can you buy a condo for in Friday Harbor right now? Four and change, right?
For a 2-bedroom.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for the right person. I don't want to say for everybody, but for the right person.
For sure.
You know. And I guess, in relation to condos, the same thing is always true. The higher the condo fees, the more skeptical people.
For sure, because when you look at these condo fees and you have to pay resort fees and then condo fees, and then you look at that money and you think, well, how much house can I buy for that?
Affordability is such a huge topic.
It is.
Huge, broad topic.
And that's what that's our challenge has been all along, right? That right when the rates were higher.
Yeah.
Like nothing was going on. Nothing was going on.
For so many months, years now, we've been like, here's the opportunity in this market. But like, I can confidently say now in this market, like there's so much opportunity. You want to buy a home.
I can say it now.
Oh yeah.
But back then I wasn't saying it.
Because the rates were too high.
I felt guilty even telling somebody to buy a house back then.
Some people had no choice, as you know, in our business, right? Their mortgage was up for renewal. They were in debt.
Do what you got to do.
Consolidate.
You help people in a very bad time.
Yeah, if you look back to those videos that we did all those times ago, one of the comments that we made in a few of those videos were, who's buying homes right now? Who's buying and selling right now? And it was the people that had to.
Right.
Relocations, separations, family amalgamations, family additions, growing family, shrinking family, empty nesting. It was all the people that had to. A big piece of it was separations.
I know. Good old divorce. Good old divorce.
Like, there's no choice. You have to, right?
No.
But in this market, I was talking to one of your agents late last week, and they were showing a house in Angus, fully detached, $599, 4-bedroom. Like,
wow.
Maybe it's a link, but
I think it's a link.
Yeah, but like going through the photos, like it's
decent.
Hey, come on. Like the taxes are low.
If you have a home that's linked from the garage, what do I care? It's a bar.
But but I mean, beautiful house.
I know.
Lovely subdivision, right? Like that subdivision has a great reputation. Low taxes.
And the thing is that people forget that if these tariffs were not in place right now, this would have been a great year for real estate. We would have had our prices would be rising. We'd have buyers. Because we now traded in affordability for uncertainty.
Yes, we certainly have.
And the problem is when it was unaffordable, nobody was buying, and now it's uncertain and people are not buying.
It's so true. And isn't it crazy to think that there's now talks about the Bank of Canada moving cuts into 2026?
Yeah, I know.
Like, we never thought that was going to happen.
Well, no.
Maybe we did.
Not the way they started. They started hot and heavy in the beginning of the year, and they were like, cut. Every meeting was a cut.
Yeah.
But, we were always concerned with the differential between what it was here and what it was in the States. But with the American dollar starting to weaken a little bit, we've been able to kind of survive that part of it because our dollar is gaining strength just because the American dollar is weakening.
Yeah. We originally talked about cuts lasting 12 months, and that was 12 to 18 months. We thought the tail end of the cuts would bleed into 2026. But as they get pushed, it becomes more and more apparent that
and the thing is fundamentally, like the Bank of Canada has already told us they can't buy us out of a recession based on tariffs. Like there's only so much policy that can help with the tariffs. So we need to get that situation resolved, and then people need to feel better about being able to keep a job. That is what's happening right now, where it used to be they had jobs and they were fine, except they couldn't afford the payments. So, I mean, it's just as bad as it was back then.
Bank of Canada has said that, they can't help us with the tariff issue.
No.
They can't price us out of the tariff issue. They can't price in the tariff issue. But something else that's really interesting that they've commented on is once that's fixed, let's say, they also can't help us with our housing issue.
No.
So we're not talking, when I say housing issue, we're not talking about prices today.
No.
We're talking about the looming supply issue.
Yep.
Different than months of inventory supply. We're
100%.
talking overall lack of new homes being built.
Well, because
per capita.
People couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like the builders wouldn't build in an environment like this. They're not sure what's going on.
Yeah.
Money was way too expensive to get. You try to get anything from the States, you're going to pay tariffs on it.
Yeah.
So it's understandable that the builders aren't building, but guess where that gets us in a couple of years? Right back to where we were January 2022.
Did you see the news about the SRO development?
No.
Just went bankrupt this week.
You're kidding.
The big condo project. It's like, I was really hoping that condo project would go through.
Wow.
But it was just announced that it went into receivership.
Yeah.
So I saw the article, and I'm paraphrasing. So like, don't kill me in the comments, Fuzzy Duck 8. But that development is not going through. I was talking to a really smart real estate investor friend of mine. He read right into it, and he said, they're like $6 million into that project this year.
Oh my gosh.
Permits and everything else.
Yeah.
So even though there's a looming housing supply crisis, they can't push a project along fast enough
to get it done.
I mean, these people lost that project simply probably because of red tape. There's only so much money allotted to the project.
Ugh.
And if they can't build,
that hurts.
There's no money left,
that
right?
Really hurts.
It really hurts. And the city needed that. The city needed that. The city needed,
oh wow.
It's a controversial topic, but the city needs more cranes in the sky. They need more units, right?
I know.
And can we get them through single family? Maybe. Nobody's building them right now.
No, because you can't afford to. And that's the whole reality of our situation. Even in Toronto, the crisis is not the 2-bedroom condos that aren't selling. It's all these, bachelors and 1-bedroom that aren't selling. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they were built for investors, but investors went, see you later. Mm-hmm. And now we sit. And it's tough for the builders because yes, do they know what will sell? Yes, but they have to do a balancing act between what will sell and what they can afford to build.
Have you seen the state of the debut condos downtown? That's the old theater block, right?
Yeah.
There's again, I'm paraphrasing here. I'm estimating that like dozens for lease in that building. Dozens.
Yeah, I actually have seen a lot of them for lease in that building.
And not expensive.
No,
you want a great deal on rent.
That's
a great spot.
And that's the thing about rent too, right?
Mm-hmm.
People talk about home prices, but rent is based on supply and demand as well.
Yeah.
So you're going to find rental prices better now than what we had during COVID. 100%.
So I learned that lesson.
Yeah.
I did.
It's all supply and demand.
I bought a pre-construction home.
Yeah.
Which through the height of the market, you and I had chat about, you're like, see if they'll let us sell it on assignment right now. Probably could have sold it for $800,000, high sevens for sure. Closed on it, bought it for 6 and change, I don't know, years ago. Closed on it was maybe worth $7. It's probably worth the same as what I paid for it right now. But the interesting thing that occurred that I didn't have any foresight on is in most cases, when a builder closes out a subdivision, they close out streets at a time. This street's closing on Friday, that street's closing on Monday, that street's closing on Tuesday. So what happens? Now you have a high concentration of closings in one area.
Right.
And some of those people want to sell. Some of those people want to rent. Very few of them in this market are actually moving in.
No, I know.
So 10 of them come up for sale.
Yeah.
It becomes its own little economy.
Supply and demand,
and
baby.
The person that wants to sell the fastest
is going
controls that economy.
It's going to take the least amount of rent.
And so I kept mine. I rented it out. Well, go on Facebook Marketplace. There's 12 for rent.
I know. That's
what's happening in debut. They all closed. They closed the whole building within, a week or 2 weeks or whatever. The people that got to sell, got to sell. The people that want to rent. And
a lot of them can't afford to sell in there either, right? Because they paid frothy prices.
Well, if you look at the rental prices in there, unless somebody had a very healthy down payment, it is very safe to assume that there are dozens of investors in that building that are losing $1,000 to $2,000 a month on their property.
Wow.
Yeah. In some cases, depending on the unit, they would be losing more per month than they would be paying in mortgage.
That's incredible.
Isn't it? Think about it. I mean, if they paid $650 for a unit, they're renting it for $2,500 a month. They have the mortgage, condo fees, taxes, insurance, and everything else. Like,
yeah,
you know,
that's
so
real money.
Yeah, it is. So there's still these things happening in our market, and that's helping control these prices as well. You know,
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
And even in Toronto, like you see that the rents are falling there too. So
yeah,
it's not a surprise.
no,
And it's funny because we'd have a client call and want to list a rental property for them, and
Yeah.
of course we would do it because we need to help the client. But in a lot of cases, we would have like the second it hit the market, we'd have all these applications
well,
flowing
for a lease, yeah,
flowing it,
yeah.
and then you get to pick your favorite.
Yeah.
It's not so much like that anymore. You know,
Interesting, eh?
we can have rental properties sitting for a month,
Yeah, wow.
which is shocking.
There's also a really narrow margin between like an apartment, a townhouse, a basement apartment,
Yeah,
and a nice luxury home.
for sure.
You know, so nice luxury home. Is it hitting 3,000 these days? Maybe.
I would think so.
Yeah. Townhouse.
25, 27.
See how slim that margin is.
What did you get for yours?
So we rented again pre-construction. We rented our townhouse for about $2,600. We closed on a pre-construction house, as you know. Your team leased it out for us, and it was $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
And that was the purchase price on that home was over $1 million.
Well, and now you
If
know.
anybody wants to buy it, they can
I
have
know.
it.
And now you know why builders only build these micro units,
Yeah.
because they can get, like, for what it costs them, it
Yeah.
makes sense. You build a bunch of micro units, you're not going to get any more, like, it's not going to
Yeah.
cost you any more to build a bigger
You
one.
just drop them up more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where their money lies, right? But
But
that's not what people are looking for.
it's safe to say as well, there's still stuff that will sell in this market.
Oh, there's stuff that's selling every day.
Yeah. I see sales in like Lake House downtown.
Yep. That's a beautiful spot.
Beautiful spot. $1.2 million.
I know.
But there's buyers for that.
Yeah.
You know, Snow Valley. Snow Valley, what's the nice new subdivision out there? Cameron Estates, is it? Selling. The house goes up for sale for $2 million. It's probably going to sell.
But it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
And that's why I caution people.
Yeah.
This market is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to be patient. Patience is a virtue in this market.
If I'm listing a Prince William Way 2-story home, and it's you tell me that let's just say market price is $949,000. I say, I'm going to try $1.05 million.
Don't do it.
Right, and then I'm going to decrease my price probably within the first 30 days.
The problem is if I came in and told you it was $949,
Yeah.
when you want to decrease, my $949 is now less.
Mm.
So you've
Because
used.
we're moving that way.
We're moving that way. And when you're
Interesting.
pricing in a down market, the problem is, and it's really difficult. We don't like these conversations. We don't
Yeah.
like telling people their homes are worth less than what they think.
Yeah.
But we have to be realistic, because the next time I come to see you, it's going to be a lot less than what it is right
It's
now.
a really interesting comment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I list that house on Prince William Way at $949,
Mm-hmm.
Just generally, what should I expect for exposure? Like, it's not 30 days,
No.
60, 90, 120 days.
And it depends at the time when you list how many others are available.
Yeah.
And you know what the problem is? People are like, well, this guy listed for, $1.1 million. My house is better than his. I can list for more. And it's like, no, he's just sitting there. This isn't a test the market kind of
but
place.
Totally. And there's another really interesting thing that he's missing. For years, if he sold at 1.1, I'm listing at 1.125. The next one's listing at 1.150, and it's going this way. We're in a market now. He sold at 1.1. You're listing at 1.075, 1.05. We're going this way
Nick,
slowly.
I'll tell you what, and you're not going to believe
Yeah.
it because you won't. What is a place like out there, and like the Prince William Way subdivisions, 2,600 square feet, just a regular backyard, not on ravine or anything. 2,600 square feet. It's a big house.
Yeah. The Eagle model. Remember that?
Yeah.
I know.
I love that Eagle model.
So do I. I just appraised one.
I love that.
We just appraised one.
Yeah. What did it
for
appraise
renewal.
for?
Like 910, I think, from memory.
Sale price?
Like
$875 for us.
Yeah.
875.
That is so much.
2,600 square feet.
So much house for 875.
875.
Yeah, that
Yes,
like
my
that
friend.
is a total
I know.
win. That is
We
like,
will have these conversations in another year. We'll be sitting here,
you
and
know,
you'll be like, "Do you remember when?"
beautiful area. I raised my kids in that area before we moved out into Oro.
Yeah.
Beautiful area, great schools, variety of schools. You have public, you have Catholic, you have elementary, you have high school,
Yeah.
parks, rec. You buy that house for 875, I guarantee you'll make money in a couple of years. And I guarantee your kids every day after school will jump on their bikes and go out with their friends in the neighborhood too.
That's what it's all about.
So if I'm listing that house with you today, generally, how long should I expect to have it on the market?
Couple months.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. Interesting.